My mom screamed, "You are dead to me," in front of everyone. The champagne glass slipped from my hand and shattered against the hardwood floor of our family home, but the sound was nothing compared to the silence that followed my words. Mom, Dad. I'm gay. I had practiced this moment 100 times in my dorm room mirror at State, imagining different scenarios, different reactions. But I never imagined this, standing in our living room packed with 43 people who'd come to celebrate my college graduation, watching my mother's face transform from pride to something I'd never seen before. Pure disgust. The graduation cap still sat crooked on my head from where little cousin Emma had knocked it sideways during our photo session 20 minutes earlier. Professor Martinez was mid-sentence, telling my parents how I'd graduated summa cum laude with my marketing degree. My roommate Jake was by the food table with my high school friends, probably expecting me to come back with some funny story about Aunt Carol's latest MLM pitch. Instead, the room felt like a museum exhibit, everyone frozen in place, forks halfway to mouths, conversations died mid-word. What did you just say? Mom's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the silence like glass. I said I'm gay, Mom. I wanted you to hear it from me because... Get out. The words exploded from her throat with such force that my 6-year-old nephew Marcus started crying. My dad, still holding his world's greatest graduate beer mug, looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. Linda, please, Dad started, but she whirled on him with that same fury. Don't you dare, she hissed. Don't you dare defend this abomination. I felt the heat creep up my neck. Around us, our guests were starting to shift uncomfortably. Mrs. Henderson from next door was gathering her purse. Professor Martinez looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. Mom, I'm still your son. I'm still the same person who... You are dead to me. The scream that tore from her throat silenced even Marcus's crying. My mother, who taught Sunday school for 15 years, who organized charity drives and baked cookies for church fundraisers, who'd spent the last 3 hours bragging to anyone who'd listen about her perfect son, was pointing at me like I'd personally set the house on fire. You are dead to me. Do you hear me? I have no son. Her finger jabbed toward the front door. Get out of my house. Get out and don't you ever come back. The living room had become a disaster zone. People were grabbing coats, mumbling awkward goodbyes, shooting me looks that ranged from pity to confusion to barely concealed judgment. My graduation cake, the one shaped like my diploma with, "Congratulations David," written in blue frosting, sat untouched on the kitchen counter. Jake appeared at my elbow, his face white. Dude, we should go. But I couldn't move. I kept staring at my mom, waiting for something to crack in her expression, some sign of the woman who used to read me bedtime stories and cheer at my soccer games. Instead, she stood there breathing hard, mascara starting to smear, looking at me like I was something she'd scrape off her shoe. Linda, Professor Martinez tried gently, perhaps if everyone just took a moment to. Get out, she screamed again. All of you. Get out of my house. That's when I knew this wasn't just anger. This was war. The exodus happened in slow motion. Professor Martinez squeezed my shoulder as he passed, pressing his business card into my palm. Call me Monday, he whispered. We'll figure this out. Jake stayed glued to my side as relatives filed past US without making eye contact. Aunt Carol, who'd been showing me pictures of her new Shih Tzu just an hour earlier, couldn't even look in my direction. Uncle Robert muttered something that sounded like, damn shame, but I couldn't tell if he meant my sexuality or my mother's reaction. The worst part was watching my dad. He stood frozen by the mantel, still clutching that stupid beer mug, looking back and forth between Mom and me like he was watching a tennis match that would determine the rest of his life. When our eyes met, I saw something crack in his expression. David, son, maybe you should, he started. Don't. Mom's voice was deadly quiet now, which somehow felt more terrifying than the screaming. Don't you say another word to IT. IT. The word hit me like a physical blow. Linda, for Christ's sake, he is nothing to us anymore. Nothing. She turned those cold eyes back to me. I should have known. All those years, refusing to date properly, never bringing home a nice Christian girl. Your grandmother would be rolling in her grave if she knew what you've become. That's what broke me. Not the screaming, not being called it, but hearing her invoke Grandma Rose's name like a weapon. Grandma Rose, who'd slipped me $20 bills and told me I could be anything I wanted. Who'd made me promise to live authentically during her last hospital visit 2 years ago. Don't you dare bring Grandma into this, I said, finding my voice for the first time since the explosion started. She would have loved me no matter what. Your grandmother was a God-fearing woman who understood the natural order of things. She'd be disgusted by what you've chosen to become. The last guests were trickling out now. My high school friend Michelle caught my eye and mouthed, "Call me later," before my mother's glare sent her scurrying toward the door. Soon it was just the three of us standing in the wreckage of what should have been one of the best days of my life. I'm going to pack, I said quietly. I'll be gone by tonight. You'll be gone now, Mom snapped. You can have Jake come get your things tomorrow when I'm at church. I don't want to see your face in my house again. Dad finally set down the beer mug. His hands were shaking. Linda, please, let's just talk about this. He's our boy. Our only. We don't have a son anymore. The neighbors definitely heard that one. Mrs. Henderson's porch light had been on since the first round of screaming started. I pulled off my graduation cap and set it on the coffee table next to the wilted boutonniere Dad had pinned to my shirt that morning. 6 hours ago, he'd been crying with pride. Now he looked like he'd aged a decade. I love you both, I said, because I couldn't leave without saying it. That's never going to change. Mom's response was to turn her back on me completely, shoulders rigid. Dad opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but one look at Mom's face made him close it again. Jake and I walked out into the humid June evening, leaving behind the sound of my mother's sobs and my father's broken silence. I didn't know it then, but the real war was just beginning. The next 3 weeks felt like living in purgatory. I'd moved in temporarily with Jake's family while job hunting, sleeping on an air mattress in his childhood bedroom surrounded by participation trophies and faded Marvel posters. Mrs. Chen had welcomed me without questions, but I caught her worried glances when she thought I wasn't looking. The silence from my parents was deafening, but the calls from extended family were worse. It started with Aunt Carol on a Tuesday afternoon. David, honey, your mother told me about your situation. Have you considered therapy? There are wonderful Christian counselors who specialize in this sort of confusion. Confusion. Like being gay was something I'd caught from a dirty doorknob. By Thursday, Uncle Robert was leaving voicemails about making better choices and not throwing away your future for a phase. Cousin Jennifer sent a passive-aggressive text about praying for my soul. Even my elderly great-aunt Martha called to inform me that I was breaking your poor mother's heart with these rebellious ideas. But it was the call from my grandmother's sister, Aunt Dorothy, that made my stomach drop. Your mother is beside herself, Dorothy said, her voice dripping with disappointment. She told me you've been living some kind of double life at college. Drinking, partying with those people, rejecting everything your family stands for. Those people. Christ. Aunt Dorothy, that's not what happened. I just told them I'm gay. I'm the same person I've always been. Don't you take that tone with me, young man. Your poor mother had to increase her donations to Pastor Williams' ministry just to cope with the shame. Did you know she gave $15,000 last week? $15,000. Money your family had been saving for years. My blood went cold. What money? The money your grandmother left for your future, of course. Linda felt it was more important to support the church's outreach programs than to enable your lifestyle choices. The phone slipped in my suddenly sweaty palm. My college fund. She donated my college fund. It wasn't your money, David. That fund was meant to help you build a proper Christian life. Since you've chosen to reject those values. I hung up before she could finish. My hands were shaking as I called Fidelity Investments, the company that had managed my college account since Grandma Rose's death. After 20 minutes of being transferred between representatives and providing security answers, I finally got Sandra Martinez on the line. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson, but the account was closed on June 15th. The remaining balance of $23,847 was transferred to the account holder per their instructions. The account holder? Your mother, Linda Thompson. She's been the custodian since you were a minor. The account was never formally transferred to your name. June 15th. 3 days after my graduation party. 3 days after she'd screamed that I was dead to her. I sat on Jake's bedroom floor, staring at my phone, doing the math. Grandma Rose had started that fund when I was 8 years old, putting in $500 every Christmas and birthday. When she died, she'd left another $40,000 specifically for my future. I'd only used about $25,000 for tuition, the rest was supposed to be my safety net for starting my career. And Mom had donated it all to Pastor Williams, Reclaiming America's Youth ministry in less than 3 weeks. The same ministry that ran conversion therapy camps. The same ministry that had sponsored 3 anti-gay marriage rallies in our county last year. My grandmother's money saved with love and hope for my future, was now funding organizations that wanted people like me to disappear. I called Dad's cell phone, knowing Mom would be at her Wednesday Bible study. David? His voice was cautious, like I might explode through the phone. Dad, please tell me you didn't know about the college fund. The pause told me everything. Son. Dad, that was Grandma's money. That was supposed to be for my future. Your mother, she's been very upset. Pastor Williams said it would help her process. $24,000, Dad. She gave away $24,000 to hurt me. Another pause. She's attending a support group. For parents dealing with this situation. It's been helping her cope. By funding conversion therapy with my inheritance. David, please. Just give her time. Maybe if you talked to Pastor Williams yourself, showed her you're willing to work on this. I hung up on him too. That night, lying on the air mattress listening to Jake's soft snoring, I made a decision. If Mom wanted to play with fire, I'd give her an inferno. The job rejection started the following week. At first, I thought it was just bad luck. The marketing position at Henderson and Associates that had seemed like a lock after my phone interview. We've decided to go in a different direction. The entry-level role at Pinnacle Communications where I'd aced the preliminary screening. Unfortunately, we don't feel you'd be a good cultural fit. By the third rejection in 5 days, I knew something was wrong. Jake found me stress-eating cereal at his kitchen counter Thursday morning, surrounded by printed rejection emails. Dude, this is weird. Your portfolio is solid, your grades are perfect. Something's not adding up. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. David Thompson. This is Rebecca Walsh from Meridian Marketing Group. I interviewed you yesterday for the coordinator position. My stomach clenched. Another rejection coming in hot. Hi, Ms. Walsh. I wanted to give you a heads up about something unusual. After our interview, I received a rather concerning phone call about you. From someone claiming to be your mother. The cereal turned to cardboard in my mouth. What kind of phone call? She told me you'd been struggling with substance abuse issues in college and had recently had what she called a psychological break. She said you'd been making poor decisions and that hiring you would be a liability for our company. The spoon clattered against the bowl. Jake looked up from his laptop, eyebrows raised. Ms. Walsh, I can assure you that none of that is true. I've never had substance abuse issues, and my college transcripts. I figured it might be personal drama, she said gently. I've seen family situations get messy before. But I wanted you to know that these calls might be happening elsewhere. You might want to look into it. After she hung up, I sat there staring at my phone while rage built in my chest like a pressure cooker. Jake was already opening his laptop. What's your mom's number? I'm going to find out how many companies she's called. You can do that. My cousin works in HR at Denison Industries downtown. She owes me a favor, and she's got connections everywhere. If your mom's been making these calls, someone will have heard about it. Within 2 hours, Jake's cousin Emma had confirmed my worst suspicions. Mom hadn't just called the companies I'd interviewed with, she'd systematically contacted every major marketing firm, advertising agency, and communications company within a 50-mile radius of our town. Her story varied slightly each time, but the core message was consistent. I was unstable, unreliable, and potentially dangerous to workplace morale. She told Pinnacle Communications I'd been arrested for drug possession. She'd informed Stratton and Associates that I'd had a mental breakdown and dropped out of college multiple times. To Crawford Marketing, she'd suggested I had anger management issues and might pose a threat to female employees. She's been busy, Emma said when she called back with the full list. 17 companies, David. 17. And she's not done. I heard she's planning to call the agencies in Richmond next week. I sank into Jake's desk chair, overwhelmed. It was one thing for Mom to cut me off emotionally, to steal my inheritance out of spite. But sabotaging my career? Actively working to destroy my ability to support myself? There's more, Emma continued hesitantly. She's been telling people you've been making advances on straight men. Inappropriately. She implied you might be a predator. The words hit like a physical blow. My own mother was destroying my reputation with lies so vicious they could follow me for years. In our small business community, word traveled fast. She wasn't just trying to hurt me, she was trying to make sure I could never recover. That evening, Jake found me on his back porch, staring at the want ads I'd printed from Richmond newspapers. You thinking of moving? What choice do I have? She's poisoned the well here. Even if I prove the lies are false, the rumors will stick. But as I said it, another idea was forming. A dangerous one. Mom's church was planning their annual charity gala in 6 weeks. The same event where she'd been volunteering for 15 years, where she'd just been nominated for their Mother of the Year award. What if I didn't run? What if I stayed and fought back? The idea crystallized over the next few days like a slow-burning fuse finally reaching dynamite. Pastor Williams, Reclaiming America's Youth Ministry, wasn't just receiving donations from my college fund, they were the guest speakers at Mom's church gala. The same event where she'd be receiving her Mother of the Year award in front of 200 members of our community's social elite. I knew this because Jake's mom had casually mentioned it over dinner Tuesday night. Such a shame about the Thompson situation, Mrs. Chen had said, passing the rice. Linda's been such a pillar of that church. I heard Pastor Williams specifically requested her for the award after her generous recent contributions. Jake kicked me under the table when he saw my expression. That night, I created a new email address and sent a message to the church's event coordinator, volunteering to help with audiovisual setup for the gala. I signed it, David Chen, close enough to be believable, generic enough to avoid immediate recognition. Within an hour, I had a response welcoming David Chen to the volunteer team and providing detailed information about the event schedule. The gala was Saturday, July 23rd. Mom would be introduced at 8:15 p.m., right after Pastor Williams' keynote presentation about protecting our children from modern corruption. The ceremony would be live-streamed on the church's Facebook page and recorded for their monthly newsletter. Perfect. But I needed more than just access. I needed ammunition. That's when I remembered something from Grandma Rose's funeral 2 years ago. She'd kept meticulous financial records in a filing cabinet in her basement, every check, every bank statement, every receipt organized by year in manila folders. When Mom inherited the house, she'd moved those files to their garage rather than throwing them away. Sentimental value, she told Dad. Mother was so proud of her record keeping. If I could get into that garage, I could prove exactly where Grandma's money had come from and where it was supposed to go. More importantly, I might find Grandma's original will and the documentation showing her explicit wishes for my college fund. The opportunity came the following Sunday. Mom's Bible study group was having their monthly potluck lunch at the church from noon to 3 p.m., and Dad always used those afternoons to play golf with his buddies at Riverside Country Club. The house would be empty for at least 2 hours. Jake insisted on being my lookout, parking his Honda Civic at the end of our street while I slipped through the backyard gate. My hands shook as I jimmied the garage's side door with a credit card, a skill I'd learned from my roommate freshman year after too many dorm lockouts. The filing cabinet sat exactly where I remembered, tucked between Dad's golf clubs and Mom's Christmas decorations. The folders were labeled in Grandma's careful handwriting: Insurance 1998 to 2001, Tax Documents 2002 to 2005, David's Education Fund 2001 to 2018. Jackpot. I photographed everything with my phone. Bank statements showing Grandma's regular $500 deposits into my college account. A handwritten letter to the investment company specifying the money was for David's future endeavors, whatever path he chooses. Most damning of all, a copy of Grandma's will with a highlighted section stating that any remaining education funds should support David's career goals and personal happiness. Personal happiness. Even from the grave, Grandma Rose was telling Mom she was wrong. But the real treasure was in a folder marked Correspondence 2017 to 2018. Letters between Grandma and me during my senior year of high school, where I tentatively mentioned struggling with my identity. Her responses were filled with love and acceptance. You are perfect exactly as you are, she'd written in her shaky handwriting. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. Mom had read these letters. She'd kept them, which meant she knew exactly how Grandma would have reacted to my coming out. And she donated the money anyway. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake, car pulling into driveway. Get out now. I shoved the most important documents into my jacket and locked the filing cabinet, my heart hammering as I heard the garage door opener grinding to life. The side door clicked shut behind me just as Mom's Camry pulled into the driveway. I made it to the neighbor's hedge before she stepped out of the car, arms full of leftover casserole dishes from the potluck. Phase 1, complete. Now I had 3 weeks to plan the perfect revenge. The plan started falling apart exactly 12 days before the gala. I was sitting in Jake's bedroom, surrounded by printouts of bank statements and a timeline I'd been obsessing over for weeks, when my phone rang. Dad's number. David? Son, we need to talk. My stomach dropped. What about? Someone broke into the garage last week. Your mother thinks it might have been you. I forced my voice to stay steady. Why would I break into your garage, Dad? Some of your grandmother's files were disturbed. Photos taken on someone's phone, we found the memory card fell behind the filing cabinet. His voice was tired, defeated. David, please tell me you're not planning something stupid. Shit. I'd been so focused on getting out before Mom arrived that I hadn't noticed my backup memory card slipping from my jacket pocket. The one with copies of everything I'd photographed. I don't know what you're talking about. Son, I found pictures of your grandmother's will on that card. Bank statements from your college fund. What are you planning to do with those? The jig was up, but maybe I could still salvage this. Dad, did you know Grandma specifically wrote that the money was for whatever path I chose? Did you know she told me in letters that I was perfect exactly as I am? A long pause. Your mother was grieving when she made those donations. She wasn't thinking clearly. She called 17 companies to sabotage my job prospects. She's trying to destroy my life. She's hurting, David. This isn't the daughter she imagined having. I'm not your daughter. I'm your son. The same son I've always been. Another pause. Your mother wants to meet. That caught me off guard. What? Tomorrow afternoon. 2 o'clock at Riverside Park. She has something she wants to discuss with you. Every instinct screamed trap, but I couldn't help the tiny spark of hope. Maybe finding those documents had forced her to confront what she'd done. Maybe there was still a chance to salvage this without nuclear warfare. Will you be there? She wants to talk to you alone first. But David, please don't bring any recording devices or try to ambush her. She's willing to meet, but she's scared. Scared of me. Her own son. I'll be there. But I spent that night preparing for war anyway. The next afternoon, Mom was already sitting on our old picnic bench when I arrived at Riverside Park. She looked smaller somehow, wearing her church clothes on a Tuesday like she was attending a funeral. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. Thank you for coming, she said without looking up. I sat on the opposite end of the bench, maintaining distance. Dad said you wanted to talk. I've been attending counseling sessions with Pastor Williams. About our situation. Our situation. Like my existence was a problem to be managed. And he's helped me understand that I may have reacted too harshly. That perhaps there's still hope for you to overcome this challenge. I felt the familiar rage building. It's not a challenge, Mom. It's who I am. That's where you're wrong. She finally looked at me, and her eyes were red-rimmed but determined. I've been reading about the success rates of proper therapy. Christian counseling can help you understand where these feelings come from. Where they come from. They come from being gay. They come from confusion. From being influenced by the wrong people in college. But it's not too late. She reached into her purse and pulled out a brochure. New Horizons Christian Treatment Center. Pastor Williams has arranged for you to attend their 6-month residential program. I stared at the glossy pamphlet featuring smiling families and Bible verses. You want to send me to conversion therapy? I want to save my son. Your son is sitting right here. My son wouldn't choose this lifestyle. My son wouldn't throw away everything we raised him to believe. Her voice was rising. Your grandmother's money is paying for this program, David. I've already made the deposit. You can start next Monday. The world tilted sideways. You used more of my college fund. I used the money for its intended purpose, securing your future. A proper future. Grandma wanted me to be happy. She said so in her letters. Mom's face hardened. Your grandmother never knew about your condition. If she had, she would have supported whatever measures necessary to fix it. She did know. The words came out quiet but deadly. I told her senior year. She wrote back that she loved me no matter what. You're lying. I have the letters. Something cracked in her expression. Those letters were destroyed. I photographed them before you could. Just like I photographed everything else you've been trying to hide. We stared at each other across 3 feet of space that felt like an ocean. Mom's hands were shaking now. You're going to that program, David. If you refuse, I'll have no choice but to continue protecting our family's reputation by any means necessary. By lies, you mean? By calling my potential employers with fake stories about drug arrests and mental breakdowns. By telling the truth about what this lifestyle leads to. I stood up, clutching the conversion therapy brochure. I'm not going to any program. Then you're choosing to remain dead to me. No, Mom. You're choosing to kill your relationship with your only child because you care more about what Pastor Williams thinks than your own son's happiness. I walked away before she could respond, but her voice followed me across the parking lot. You have until Friday to decide, David. After that, I can't protect you from the consequences of your choices. That night, I called the church's event coordinator and volunteered for additional setup duties at Saturday's gala. The war was officially on. The complication started Friday morning when Jake burst into his bedroom holding his laptop like it was on fire. Dude, we have a problem. A big fucking problem. I looked up from the speech I'd been writing for tomorrow night. 3 pages of carefully crafted truth bombs designed to detonate my mother's reputation in front of 200 of our town's most influential people. What now? Your mom called my mom last night. She knows you're staying here. My blood went cold. What did she say? Jake set his laptop on the bed and pulled up Facebook. See for yourself. The post was on the Riverside Community Watch page, shared by my mother at 11:47 p.m. Dear friends, I'm reaching out in desperation about my son David Thompson. He's been struggling with severe mental health issues since college and has recently made threats against our family and our church. If anyone sees him near Faith Community Church or their events, please contact authorities immediately. He's not violent, but he's not well, and I'm terrified he might hurt himself or others. Please keep our family in your prayers during this difficult time. Linda Thompson. 43 comments. 27 shares. Mrs. Patterson from down the street had written, "Oh honey, I'm so sorry. Mental illness is such a burden for families." Mr. Davidson, who owned half the businesses downtown, had commented, "Have you considered involuntary commitment? Sometimes that's the only way to help them." She's fucking brilliant, I said, staring at the screen. Evil, but brilliant. David, maybe this is a sign we should. No. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through the church's Facebook page. If anything, this makes tomorrow night even more important. She just publicly called me mentally ill and potentially dangerous. When I show up at that gala with documented proof of what she's really been doing, they'll call the cops before you get through the door. Jake was right. Mom had just painted me as an unstable stalker. Security would tackle me the second I walked into that church. Even if I made it to the microphone, everyone would dismiss anything I said as the ravings of someone having a breakdown. I sank onto the air mattress, watching my perfect revenge plan crumble in real time. She's 3 steps ahead of me. Maybe that's not necessarily bad, Jake said carefully. Maybe this is the universe telling you to take the high road. But as I stared at my mother's Facebook post, a new idea started forming. Dangerous and probably illegal, but potentially unstoppable. Jake, how tech-savvy is your cousin Emma? Pretty savvy. Why? Does she know anything about church live stream systems? The look on Jake's face told me he knew exactly where my mind was going. David, no. Whatever you're thinking. Mom wants to play dirty. Let's play dirty. I was already pulling up the church's website, looking for technical specifications for their streaming setup. She's taken away my ability to physically confront her at the gala. But she can't stop the internet. You want to hack into their live stream? I want to tell my story to the same audience that's watching her accept that Mother of the Year award. Every word she said about me being unstable just makes the truth more powerful when I present actual evidence. Jake ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. You're talking about committing actual crimes now. She stole $24,000 from my inheritance and donated it to conversion therapy. She's systematically destroyed my job prospects with lies. She's trying to have me committed to a psychiatric facility. My voice was rising. At what point am I allowed to fight back? Not like this. What happens when they trace the hack back to you? What happens when? My phone rang. Unknown number. David Thompson. This is Detective Sarah Martinez with Riverside Police Department. I need to speak with you about a harassment complaint that's been filed. My hands went numb. Jake's eyes widened as I put the call on speaker. What kind of harassment complaint? Your mother, Linda Thompson, has filed a report claiming you've been making threatening phone calls and attempting to break into church property. She's provided evidence of a break-in at your family home and says you've been stalking church events. Can you come in for questioning this afternoon? I looked at Jake, who was frantically shaking his head. Detective Martinez, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I haven't made any threatening calls or... Sir, I prefer to discuss this in person. Can you be at the station by 3 p.m.? It was 1:15 now. If I went to that police station, there was a good chance I wouldn't be coming out in time for tomorrow night's gala. Maybe not for weeks, if Mom had been as creative with her accusations as she'd been with everything else. I'll need to call my lawyer first. That's your right, sir. But I should mention that failure to cooperate with our investigation could result in a warrant being issued. After she hung up, Jake and I sat in silence for a full minute. Call Emma, I said finally. Tell her we need to meet tonight. David. They want to paint me as crazy. Fine. Let's give them something to really be scared of. Emma agreed to meet us at a 24-hour diner outside town at 11 p.m. after her shift at the tech company ended. She slid into our booth wearing a hoodie and looking nervous as hell. Jake told me what you need, she said without preamble. And I'm telling you right now, what you're asking for could land all of us in federal prison. How federal are we talking? I asked, stirring sugar into coffee I didn't want. Hacking into a church's live stream system. That's tampering with broadcast communications, unauthorized access to computer systems, potentially wire fraud depending on how you want to spin it. She pulled out her laptop. The FBI takes this stuff seriously, especially when religious organizations are involved. Jake looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Maybe we should. But, Emma continued, hypothetically speaking, Faith Community Church's streaming setup is embarrassingly easy to access. They're using a basic OBS system connected to their Facebook page through an unsecured network. A first-year computer science student could probably figure it out. My pulse quickened. Hypothetically, someone could intercept their stream signal and overlay their own content. Graphics, video, audio, whatever they wanted to broadcast to their audience. She turned her laptop screen toward us, showing a basic network diagram. The question is whether you're absolutely sure this is worth destroying your life over. I thought about Detective Martinez's phone call. About Mom's Facebook post painting me as mentally unstable. About the $24,000 she'd stolen to fund organizations that wanted people like me to disappear. She filed a police report claiming I threatened her. I've never even raised my voice to my mother in my entire life, and now I'm facing potential criminal charges because she needs a cover story for what she's been doing. Emma nodded slowly. Jake filled me in. The employment sabotage alone could be grounds for a civil lawsuit. Civil lawsuits take years and cost money I don't have. But tomorrow night, she's going to stand in front of 200 people and accept an award for being Mother of the Year. The same people who donate to Pastor Williams' ministry. The same community leaders who could make or break careers in this town. And you want to crash the party. I want to tell the truth. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken from Grandma's files. I have documentation proving she stole my inheritance. I have her grandmother's letters showing she knew I was gay and supported me. I have evidence of the employment sabotage. Emma scrolled through the images, her expression growing darker. Jesus Christ, David. She really went nuclear on you. Which is why I need to go nuclear back. Jake was still shaking his head. There has to be another way. What about posting this stuff online? Starting a blog? Going to a lawyer? With what money? And who's going to believe me over her? She's already established the narrative that I'm mentally unstable and potentially dangerous. I leaned across the table toward Emma. How long would I have once I hijacked their stream? Before they figured out how to cut it off. Depends on how tech-savvy their volunteers are. Could be 30 seconds, could be 10 minutes. Most church people aren't exactly cybersecurity experts. 10 minutes would be enough. Emma closed her laptop. I need to think about this. What you're describing isn't just revenge, it's career suicide for anyone involved. If they trace this back to me, I lose my job, my security clearance, everything. I'm not asking you to do it for free. I'm not asking you to pay me. I'm asking you to consider whether you've thought through all the ways this could go wrong. She stood up, shouldering her laptop bag. Sleep on it. If you still want to do this tomorrow morning, call me before noon. But David? Yeah. Make sure you're ready for war. Because once you push this button, there's no taking it back. After Emma left, Jake and I sat in the diner until closing time, picking at cold fries and watching the clock tick toward midnight. You know what the worst part is? I said finally. 6 months ago, if someone had told me my mother would steal my inheritance and try to have me arrested, I would have laughed at them. She's scared, Jake offered. People do crazy things when they're scared. No, she's calculated. Every move she's made has been designed to isolate me and control the narrative. The Facebook post, the police report, she's not acting out of fear. She's acting out of strategy. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. David, this is Detective Martinez. Our interview has been moved to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Saturday morning. 2 hours before the gala setup was supposed to begin. They're trying to keep you away from the church, Jake realized, reading over my shoulder. Which means Mom's not just paranoid about me showing up. She knows I have something that could hurt her. I pulled out my phone and dialed Emma's number. It's midnight, David, she answered on the second ring. I don't need to sleep on it. I need to know if you're in. A long pause. What's my guarantee that this doesn't come back to bite me? You'll be helping expose someone who's been stealing from charities and destroying lives. When this all comes out, you'll be on the right side of history. History doesn't pay my rent. $5,000. Cash. Untraceable. Another pause. Where the hell are you going to get $5,000? I thought about the emergency credit card I'd been saving for job interview trips. About the small inheritance Grandma Rose had left me and her jewelry collection, sitting in a safety deposit box across town. Let me worry about that. Are you in? Emma's sigh carried through the phone. God help me. Yeah, I'm in. But we do this my way, with my equipment, and if anything goes sideways, we never had this conversation. Understood. Meet me at the church parking lot at 6 p.m. tomorrow. And David? Bring a backup plan, because technology fails and people are unpredictable. After I hung up, Jake looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You've changed, man. 6 weeks ago, you were afraid to tell your parents you were gay. Now you're planning to commit federal crimes. 6 weeks ago, I thought my parents loved me unconditionally. Funny how quickly the world can turn upside down. I stared out the diner window at the empty parking lot, thinking about Detective Martinez's interview in the morning and Mom's gala tomorrow night. Jake? Yeah. If this goes wrong tomorrow, will you make sure people know why I did it? He reached across the table and gripped my shoulder. It's not going to go wrong. And even if it does, you're not doing this alone. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crushing anxiety that makes your chest feel like it's wrapped in barbed wire. I stood outside the Riverside Police Department at 7:45 a.m., wearing my only clean button-down shirt and trying to look like someone who definitely hadn't spent the night planning to hack into a church's live stream. Detective Martinez turned out to be a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a sort of patient demeanor that probably worked well on actual criminals. She led me into a small interview room that smelled like industrial coffee and disappointment. David, I appreciate you coming in. I know this situation with your family must be difficult. She set a manila folder on the table between us, and I caught a glimpse of printed Facebook screenshots and what looked like phone records. Before we begin, I want you to know that your mother seems genuinely concerned about your well-being. She's not trying to get you in trouble, she's trying to get you help. What exactly has she told you? Detective Martinez opened the folder. She says you've been making threatening phone calls to your family and church members. She provided phone records showing multiple calls from numbers she believes you're using. She slid a paper across the table. 17 calls in the past 2 weeks to Pastor Williams' personal cell phone, some as late as 2 a.m. I stared at the phone records, my stomach sinking. The numbers were all local, but I'd never seen them before in my life. Detective, I haven't called Pastor Williams at all, let alone 17 times. She also says you broke into your family home and stole personal documents. That's more complicated. How so? I took a breath, trying to figure out how much truth I could tell without completely incriminating myself. My mother donated my college fund to anti-gay organizations without my knowledge. I retrieved copies of my grandmother's will and bank statements that prove the money was meant for my future, regardless of my sexual orientation. Detective Martinez made a note. So you did enter the property without permission? It's my childhood home. My belongings are still there. But your mother asked you not to return, correct? Shit. Yes. David, I'm going to be straight with you. Your mother has also filed for a temporary restraining order. The hearing is Monday morning. She leaned forward slightly. She's claiming you've made threats against the church's charity event tonight. I never threatened anyone. She has screenshots of social media posts where you allegedly said you were going to make her pay and expose the truth at any cost. Posts from an account called David_Truth22. My blood went cold. I pulled out my phone and searched for the account she mentioned. Sure enough, there it was, a Facebook profile using my graduation photo, with posts dating back 3 days. Posts I'd never written, talking about revenge and confrontation and making them all see what she really is. Detective, this isn't my account. I've never seen this before in my life. She studied my reaction carefully. The posts were made from devices with IP addresses matching the location where you've been staying. Jake's house. Someone had been using Jake's internet connection to create a fake social media profile in my name. But who had access to? The realization hit like a freight train. Mrs. Chen had mentioned Mom calling her about my situation. What if that conversation had gone deeper? What if Mom had convinced her I was genuinely unstable, and Mrs. Chen had given her access to their home network while Jake and I were out? Detective, my mother is setting me up. She's created a fake social media account to justify getting a restraining order that will keep me away from tonight's event. Why would she go to such elaborate lengths? Because she knows I have evidence that could destroy her reputation and potentially land her in legal trouble for theft and harassment. But I couldn't say that without admitting to my own planned crimes. Because she's terrified that people will find out what she's really been doing with my inheritance money. Detective Martinez closed the folder. David, here's what's going to happen. I'm not arresting you today, because frankly, this feels more like a family dispute than a criminal matter. But you need to stay away from Faith Community Church and any events they're hosting. If you show up tonight, you will be arrested. What if I can prove the social media account is fake? Bring that evidence to the restraining order hearing Monday. Until then, keep your distance. I walked out of the police station at 9:30 a.m., my hands shaking as I called Emma. Change of plans, I said when she answered. They've got security looking for me now. There's no way I can get near that church. So we're calling it off. I stood in the police station parking lot, watching normal people go about their Saturday morning routines, completely unaware that my entire future was crumbling in real time. No. We're getting creative. David, what are you thinking? You said the church's streaming system is connected to their Facebook page, right? Yeah, but what if we don't need to be physically at the church? What if we can hijack their stream remotely? Emma's pause told me she was already thinking through the technical possibilities. It's riskier, she said finally. And we'd need somewhere with better internet than Jake's house. Somewhere they wouldn't think to look for us. I might have an idea about that. The abandoned radio station on Route 47 had been sitting empty for 3 years, ever since WKRV moved to their new facility downtown. But the building still had power. I'd noticed the security lights were always on when I drove past, and more importantly, it probably still had the kind of high-speed internet infrastructure that a radio station would need. Emma met me in the overgrown parking lot at 2 p.m., her Honda Civic packed with enough computer equipment to launch a satellite. This is either brilliant or completely insane, she said, staring up at the peeling WKRV sign. How do you know we can get inside? My high school girlfriend's dad was the station manager. Sarah Martinez. I caught Emma's expression. Different Martinez than the detective. Anyway, Mr. Martinez always bragged about how they'd hidden a spare key because the building was so isolated. Under the fake rock by the back door, he used to say. It took us 20 minutes to find the right fake rock, but sure enough, there was a slightly corroded key underneath. The building smelled like stale coffee and abandoned dreams, but the lights worked and Emma's laptop picked up a strong internet signal immediately. Jesus, they've got fiber optic, she said, running speed tests. This is better than most people's home internet. While Emma set up her equipment in what used to be the main broadcast booth, I spread my grandmother's documents across the old news desk. Bank statements, letters, copies of her will, everything I needed to prove that Mom had stolen money that was explicitly meant to support whatever path I chose in life. Okay, here's how this works, Emma said, connecting her laptop to a professional-looking video mixer. I can intercept Faith Community's Facebook live stream about 10 minutes before it starts. Once I'm in, you'll have a small window, maybe 5 minutes if we're lucky, before their tech people figure out how to shut us down. What about audio? That's the tricky part. I can override their video feed, but hijacking their sound system requires physical access to their mixer board. She pulled up a schematic on her laptop. See this? Their audio runs through a Behringer X32 board in their sanctuary. Without access to that, you'll be a silent movie. My heart sank. So even if we get through, no one will hear what I'm saying. Not necessarily. Emma's fingers flew over her keyboard. What's Pastor Williams' cell phone number? I found it in my contacts. Mom had given it to me years ago for spiritual emergencies. Why? Because most churches that live stream have a backup system for when their main audio fails. They can patch in phone calls directly to their broadcast feed. She grinned. If you call that number at exactly the right moment, and Pastor Williams is dumb enough to answer on speakerphone, his voice would go out over the live stream. His voice, your voice, whatever comes through that phone call. Church people love their technology, but they're not always great at understanding how it works. It was risky as hell, but it was something. I practiced my speech 3 more times while Emma finished her setup, boiling down 24 years of family history into 5 minutes of devastating truth bombs. At 5:30, my phone rang. Jake. Dude, you need to know, my mom just got another call from your mother. She's asking questions about where we've been going, what we've been planning. I think she knows something's up. What did your mom tell her? Nothing, but David, she's scared. Your mom is really good at making people think you're dangerous. Even my parents are starting to wonder if maybe you need professional help. I looked around the abandoned radio station, surrounded by stolen documents and hacking equipment, planning to hijack a church service to destroy my mother's reputation. Maybe I did need professional help. But not the kind she had in mind. Jake, in about 3 hours, this is either going to be the best decision I've ever made or the worst. But either way, I need you to know, none of this is your fault. David, what are you? Just watch Faith Community's Facebook page tonight at 8:15. And whatever happens, remember that I tried to do this the right way first. Emma looked up from her laptop as I hung up. Second thoughts. Third and fourth thoughts. But we're doing this anyway. She nodded and turned back to her screen, where lines of code were already beginning Faith Community Church's technological undoing. Showtime in 2 hours and 45 minutes, she said. Hope you're ready to burn some bridges. I stared out the radio station's dusty window at the setting sun, thinking about Mom getting dressed for her big night, probably rehearsing her acceptance speech for Mother of the Year. She had no idea what was coming. At 7:45 p.m., Emma's laptop screen showed 847 viewers on Faith Community Church's Facebook livestream, a respectable audience for a Saturday night charity gala in our small town. The feed displayed Pastor Williams adjusting his microphone at the podium while well-dressed congregants filed into the sanctuary's wooden pews. There, I said, pointing at the screen. Third row from the front, blue dress. Mom sat between Dad and Mrs. Patterson, her silver hair perfectly styled, hands folded in her lap like she was posing for a church directory photo. The Mother of the Year award sat on a table beside the pulpit, waiting for her moment of triumph. She looks so normal, Emma muttered, fingers poised over her keyboard. Hard to believe she's been systematically destroying your life for 6 weeks. That's her superpower. Looking like the perfect Christian mother while stabbing people in the back. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. David, this is Pastor Williams. Your mother mentioned you might try to disrupt tonight's service. I'm praying for your healing, son. Please don't make this harder on your family than it already is. He's fishing, Emma said, reading over my shoulder. Trying to get you to respond so they can triangulate your location or prove you're planning something. I deleted the message without responding and checked my notes one more time. 5 minutes to explain 24 years of family history, prove financial theft, and expose Mom's campaign of destruction. Every word had to count. At 8:10, Pastor Williams stepped to the microphone for his introduction of the evening's honoree. Emma's hands moved across her keyboard like a concert pianist hitting a crescendo. Okay, I'm into their system, she whispered. Video override ready. You sure about this? Once I hit enter, we're committed. Through the live stream, I watched Mom stand up as Pastor Williams began listing her volunteer accomplishments. Linda Thompson has been the backbone of our church family for over 15 years, his voice carried clearly through the radio station speakers. Her recent generous donations to youth outreach ministries show her dedication to protecting our children from the moral confusion plaguing today's society. Youth outreach ministries. My inheritance money, funding conversion therapy camps. Do it, I said. Emma hit enter, and the church's video feed suddenly cut to black. For 30 seconds, the 847 viewers saw nothing but darkness while confused murmuring filtered through their audio system. Then my face appeared on screen, sitting in the abandoned radio station with Grandma Rose's documents spread in front of me. Hello, Faith Community Church, I said, looking directly into Emma's camera. My name is David Thompson, and I have something you need to know about your Mother of the Year. The viewer count jumped to 1,203 as people started sharing the stream. Emma held up 3 fingers, 3 minutes before they'd likely figure out how to cut us off. 6 weeks ago, my mother Linda Thompson screamed that I was dead to her because I came out as gay at my graduation party. Since then, she has stolen $24,000 from my inheritance to donate to anti-LGBTQ organizations, systematically called 17 local employers to sabotage my job prospects with lies about drug arrests and mental illness, and filed false police reports claiming I've threatened violence against your church. I held up the first bank statement, angling it toward the camera. This shows my grandmother Rose Thompson's deposits into my education fund from 2001 to 2018. This letter, written in my grandmother's handwriting, explicitly states the money should support my happiness and whatever path I choose in life. The viewer count hit 1,847. Someone in the church was probably frantically unplugging cables right now. My grandmother knew I was gay. She supported me completely. But Linda Thompson donated her money to Pastor Williams Reclaiming America's Youth Ministry anyway, the same organization that runs conversion therapy camps. Emma held up 2 fingers. I was running out of time. She's not a pillar of Christian values. She's a thief and a liar who... The screen went black. They'd found the kill switch. But my phone was already ringing. Pastor Williams, exactly as Emma had predicted. I answered on speaker as Emma frantically tried to restore our video feed. David, son, what have you done? Pastor Williams' voice was shaky, confused. And it was broadcasting live to 2,156 viewers who could still hear the audio portion of the stream. I've told the truth, Pastor Williams. Something you might want to try sometime. Pastor Williams, are you on speakerphone? I asked, knowing the answer but needing him to confirm it for the 2,156 people listening. David, please, let's handle this privately. Come to the church and we can. Are you on speakerphone, Pastor Williams? Because I can hear an echo, and I'm pretty sure your congregation can hear me right now. A moment of panicked silence. Then, son, you're clearly having some kind of breakdown. I'm having a breakthrough. There's a difference. I spread Grandma's letters across the radio station desk, Emma frantically gesturing that our video feed was almost restored. Pastor Williams, did my mother tell you that my grandmother specifically wrote that she loved me, exactly as I am, when I came out to her in 2017? David, your grandmother was a confused elderly woman in her final years. She was sharper than you'll ever be. The video feed flickered back to life, showing me holding up one of Grandma Rose's letters. This is dated March 15, 2017. Quote, Dearest David, thank you for trusting me with your truth. You are perfect exactly as you are, and anyone who tells you otherwise can answer to me. Love always, Grandma Rose. The viewer count jumped to 2,847. Emma pointed to her screen, someone was screen recording everything. Pastor Williams, did Linda Thompson tell you that she called Meridian Marketing Group and told them I'd been arrested for drug possession? Or that she told Stratton and Associates I had anger management issues and might threaten female employees? Son, you're clearly not well. I'm gay, not mentally ill. Though I can see how someone like you might confuse the two. My hands were shaking now, adrenaline and rage mixing into something explosive. Here's what's really interesting, Pastor Williams. My grandmother's will specifically states that her education fund should support my career goals and personal happiness. Those are her exact words. Through the live stream audio, I could hear commotion in the sanctuary. Voices, shuffling, what sounded like someone crying. But Linda Thompson donated $24,000 of that money to your ministry on June 18th, June 25th, and July 2nd. 3 separate donations, totaling exactly the amount left in my account. I held up the bank statements. Money that was meant to help me build a life, now funding organizations that want people like me to disappear. David, please. Tell me, Pastor Williams, what does your congregation think about fraud? About stealing from the dead? Because that's what your Mother of the Year has been doing. Emma held up one finger, 1 minute left before they'd likely shut down the audio feed too. And here's the beautiful part, I continued, pulling out my phone to show the fake Facebook account screenshots Detective Martinez had printed. She created a fake social media profile in my name to justify getting a restraining order. Posted threats I never made, using Jake Chen's family internet connection after convincing his mother I was dangerous. The audio feed crackled, someone clearly trying to disconnect Pastor Williams' phone. 3,421 viewers now, Pastor Williams. That's a bigger audience than your church has ever had. Congratulations, Linda Thompson just made you famous. David, I'm hanging up now. Wait. I shouted. I want everyone to know, I never threatened violence against anyone. I just wanted my mother to love me more than she loves her reputation. Apparently, that was asking too much. The line went dead. Emma's screen showed 3,698 viewers before the entire live stream finally cut out. We sat in the abandoned radio station, surrounded by empty energy drink cans and the weight of what we'd just done. My phone started buzzing immediately. Text after text from numbers I recognized and some I didn't. Holy shit, David, I saw everything, Jake. Is this real? Michelle from high school. Your grandmother would be proud, unknown number. You're brave as hell, Professor Martinez. But the one that made my hands shake was from Dad's number, come home. Now. I stared at Dad's text for a full minute, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Come home. Now. 2 words that could mean anything from reconciliation to another trap. Don't, Emma said, reading over my shoulder. Your mom just got publicly humiliated in front of half the town. She's going to be looking for blood. But my phone buzzed again. This time, a longer message from Dad, your mother locked herself in the bathroom. She won't come out. The church is in chaos. People are demanding answers about the donations. Pastor Williams is talking about calling an emergency board meeting. David, please. I need help. Jake's name flashed on my screen. I answered immediately. Dude, you need to see what's happening on social media, he said, his voice tight with excitement and terror. Someone screen recorded everything. It's already been shared 847 times on Facebook, and there's a Twitter thread going viral with screenshots of your grandmother's letters. Twitter. Hashtag Justice for David. People are pissed, man. Really pissed. Mrs. Patterson posted in the church Facebook group asking how many other families Linda's been lying about. 3 other people have already commented saying she spread rumors about their kids too. Emma pulled up Facebook on her laptop. The Faith Community Church group page was exploding with comments under Pastor Williams' hastily posted damage control message. Tonight's technical difficulties were caused by an outside party. We're investigating the security breach and will address any concerns about church finances at tomorrow's emergency meeting. But the congregation wasn't buying it. Margaret Davis, whose son had been kicked out of church youth group 2 years ago for smoking weed, wrote, maybe we should be investigating Linda Thompson instead of blaming technical difficulties. How much of our tithe money has gone to her pet causes? Robert Morrison, one of the deacons, had posted, I want to see full financial records for every donation made in the church's name this year. Something stinks here. My phone rang again. Dad, this time actually calling. David, son, where are you? His voice sounded like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. Dad, is Mom. She won't talk to me. Won't come out of the bathroom. The church is. Christ, David, half the board members are calling for Pastor Williams to resign. They're saying if he knew about the stolen inheritance money and didn't report it, he could be charged as an accessory. Did he know? A long pause. I think he knew more than he let on. Some of the other parents are saying Linda's been feeding him information about problematic church families for months. Using it to justify his sermons about moral decay. Emma showed me her screen. The viewer count on the screen recording had hit 12,000 and climbing. Someone had started a GoFundMe page titled, Help David Thompson Rebuild His Life, that already had $3,400 in donations. Dad, I can't come home tonight. Not with the restraining order. There is no restraining order. His voice cracked. Your mother admitted to Detective Martinez an hour ago that she made up the threatening phone calls. The Facebook account too. Martinez is talking about filing charges against her for filing false reports. The world tilted sideways. She confessed. When Pastor Williams confronted her in front of the entire congregation about the inheritance money, she broke down. Started screaming that you'd left her no choice, that she was protecting the family's reputation. Then she admitted to, all of it. Emma grabbed my arm, pointing at her screen. Local news station WKRV had just posted a breaking news article, Riverside Church rocked by donation scandal, mother accused of stealing son's inheritance to fund anti-LGBTQ groups. Dad, are you okay? No. The word came out as a sob. No, I'm not okay. My wife stole money from my dead mother-in-law to hurt our son. She lied to police. She's been destroying people's lives for months, and I just stood there and let it happen. You didn't know. I knew enough. I knew she was hurting you, and I chose her over you every single time. His breathing was ragged. Your grandmother Rose would never forgive me. Hell, I'll never forgive myself. Through Emma's laptop speakers, we could hear sirens in the distance. She pulled up a police scanner app, and the dispatcher was sending units to Faith Community Church for a disturbance involving church leadership. My phone buzzed with another text, this one from Detective Martinez. David, charges against your mother are being filed Monday morning. Wire fraud, theft, filing false reports. You're no longer considered a suspect in anything. Call me when you can. I sank into the radio station's cracked leather chair, overwhelmed by the rapid reversal of fortune. 6 hours ago, I was facing arrest. Now Mom was the one looking at criminal charges. Emma, I said quietly, we should probably get out of here before someone traces the hack back to this location. She was already packing up her equipment. Way ahead of you. And David? Delete everything from your phone related to tonight's technical assistance. Just in case. As we prepared to leave the abandoned radio station, my phone rang one more time. Unknown number, local area code. David Thompson. This is Channel 7 News. We'd like to interview you about tonight's events at Faith Community Church. I looked at Emma, who was shaking her head frantically. No comment, I said, and hung up. But as we walked out to our cars, I realized the media attention was just beginning. This story was about to get much bigger than one small-town church scandal. The media circus started Sunday morning at 6:47 a.m. when I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Jake was already awake, sitting at his desk with his laptop open and a grim expression on his face. We have a problem, he said, turning the screen toward me. A big one. The Channel 7 News website showed my high school graduation photo next to a headline that made my stomach drop. Local man hacks church service to expose mother's theft. FBI investigating cybercrime at Faith Community. FBI. The three letters that could destroy everything. How the hell did they connect me to the hack so fast? I grabbed Jake's laptop, scrolling through the article. Emma said we covered our tracks. Keep reading. The article quoted anonymous law enforcement sources saying they'd traced the live stream hijacking to an abandoned radio station on Route 47, where sophisticated computer equipment had been discovered. Worse, they'd apparently found fingerprints on the building's back door and security footage from a gas station across the street showing my car in the area. My phone rang. Emma's number. Please tell me you're seeing different news than I am, I answered. I'm in my car driving to my sister's place in North Carolina, she said, her voice tight with panic. David, I'm sorry, but I have to disappear for a while. If the FBI connects me to this, I lose my security clearance and probably go to federal prison. Emma, wait. Delete this number. Don't contact me again until this blows over. And David? Get a lawyer. A good one. Today. The line went dead. Jake was refreshing his browser, watching new articles pop up every few minutes. WRL picked it up. So did the Raleigh Observer. Something called the Christian Post is calling you the face of anti-religious extremism in America. That's insane. I didn't attack religion. I attacked my mother for stealing money. Try explaining that to Twitter. He pulled up his phone, showing me a trending hashtag, #ChurchHacker. Half the posts are calling you a hero, half are calling you a terrorist. Someone doxed your address and posted photos of our house. I looked out Jake's bedroom window and saw what he meant. 3 news vans were parked across the street, their satellite dishes pointed skyward like mechanical prayers. A small crowd of people with signs had gathered on the sidewalk, some reading, "Support David Thompson," others saying, "Respect religious freedom." My parents are freaking out, Jake continued. They want you gone before this gets worse. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad, FBI agents at the house. They have a search warrant. Don't come home. Search warrant. For what? The inheritance documents were legally mine, and everything else had been destroyed or deleted. Unless. Jake, the memory card that fell behind the filing cabinet. The one with photos of Grandma's documents. What if they found more than just that? What do you mean? I was already dialing Dad's number, but it went straight to voicemail. When I tried calling the house line, Mom answered on the second ring. I hope you're satisfied, she said without preamble. Her voice sounded hollow, defeated. FBI agents are tearing apart your childhood bedroom looking for evidence of cyberterrorism. Cyberterrorism? Mom, I hijacked a church live stream, not the Pentagon. You hacked into a religious institution and broadcast lies to destroy my reputation. They're saying it could be classified as a hate crime against Christians. The absurdity hit me like a slap. I'm facing hate crime charges for exposing actual crimes you committed. I never committed any crimes. That money was mine to donate wherever I saw fit. It was Grandma's money, designated for my future. Your grandmother never intended for that money to support your sinful lifestyle. I was correcting her mistake. Even now, even with FBI agents searching our house and her own criminal charges pending, she couldn't admit she'd been wrong. Mom, where's Dad? Talking to federal agents about his son, the cybercriminal. Her voice cracked slightly. 22 years I spent raising you, David. 22 years of trying to give you a good Christian foundation, and this is how you repay me. By destroying everything we've built. You destroyed it first when you screamed that I was dead to you. You were dead to me. The son I raised would never have done something like this. The line went dead, and I realized she was right about one thing. The son she'd raised never would have fought back. But that son was gone forever. By Tuesday morning, the narrative had completely flipped. I was sitting in attorney Sarah Chen's office, no relation to Jake's family, just the universe's sense of irony, when she got the call that changed everything. Yes, I understand, she said into her phone, scribbling notes. When will the charges be filed? And the federal investigation? I see. Thank you. She hung up and smiled for the first time since I'd hired her with money from the GoFundMe that had reached $47,000 overnight. David, the FBI is dropping the cybercrime investigation. My heart stopped. What? Turns out your mother's financial improprieties go much deeper than stealing your inheritance. The church hired an independent auditor yesterday, and they've uncovered systematic embezzlement dating back 3 years. Linda Thompson has been skimming money from the general fund, the building maintenance fund, even the children's Christmas program budget. I stared at her. How much money are we talking about? Preliminary estimates suggest over $180,000. Money she's been funneling to various religious organizations while claiming it was her personal donations. Sarah consulted her notes. The FBI is now treating your live stream hack as whistleblowing that exposed a much larger criminal conspiracy. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad, church board voted. Pastor Williams resigned. Your mother arrested an hour ago. Can you come home? Through Sarah's office window, I could see protesters still gathered outside with their signs. But the signs had changed, now they read, "Thank you David," and "Faith requires truth." There's more, Sarah continued. Channel 7 interviewed 3 other families yesterday who say your mother spread malicious rumors about their children to Pastor Williams. The district attorney is looking into harassment and defamation charges. 3 hours later, I stood on the front porch of my childhood home for the first time in 8 weeks. Dad opened the door before I could knock, his eyes red-rimmed and hollow. She's being held without bail, he said quietly. Flight risk, they said. And David. I'm filing for divorce. We sat at the kitchen table where I'd eaten thousands of meals, where Mom had helped me with homework, where she'd screamed that I was dead to her 57 days ago. The congratulations graduate cake was long gone, but I could still see the faint frosting stain on the tablecloth. The GoFundMe people want to give you the money, Dad said, sliding a printout across the table. $62,847 as of this morning. People from all over the country, son. Parents of gay kids, mostly. Saying you gave their families hope. I thought about Grandma Rose, about her letters telling me I was perfect exactly as I was. About the $24,000 she'd saved for my future that Mom had stolen to hurt people like me. Dad, I want to donate half of it back to the church. The real church, not Pastor William's version. For families who need help accepting their LGBTQ kids. He nodded, tears finally coming. Your grandmother would be proud of who you've become. Are you proud? He reached across the table and gripped my hand. Son, I should have defended you from the beginning. I chose the wrong side of a war that never should have happened. That evening, as news vans finally packed up and protesters went home to their own families, I sat in Grandma Rose's garden reading her letters one more time. Tomorrow, I'd start interviews for the marketing position that Meridian had offered me after Sarah threatened them with a discrimination lawsuit. Next week, I'd testify at Mom's preliminary hearing. But tonight, I was just a 22-year-old kid who'd finally learned the difference between being loved and being accepted. Mom had spent 8 weeks trying to prove I was dead to her. Instead, she'd proven I was finally alive.